Welcome back, bow hunters. This is Ron with Stay Sharp Guides. This is a video I didn't think I'd be making and frankly didn't want to make, but I guess I have to do as the customer base asks. I have been getting emails and calls and messages on my social media account asking me to come up with a solution to sharpen a certain broadhead. The problem is that certain broadhead does not require a solution or a guide. The VPA Omega, with their lay flat sharpening technology, is a head that should not need a guide. I got these as soon as the heads came out because I was intrigued by a head that doesn't need a guide to sharpen, and their claim is that you can simply lay the head on that large facet and it is self-aligning for the sharpening process on both sides. Now, the issue that I had when I got the heads is that the backside isn't entirely flat. It's a part single bevel, part double bevel head, so the backside isn't flat. And if you've watched dozens and dozens of videos that I've made, I lay the head flat to break off the burr. Well, that can't be done because of that extra strong tip. So first of all, let me say, I love VPA heads. I'm a super fan of VPA heads. Everything they make is awesome. The steel they use is awesome. An American-made company. There's nothing to dislike about VPA. But I get these emails. I've actually had people message me, I will send you my heads, will you please sharpen them? Now, this is not the fault of VPA. There are people who are just born with a freehand sharpening gene who can sharpen anything. There are people who are born where they could buy every sharpening device in the world and never get a blade sharp. There are different skill sets in everybody. This head was meant to help those who struggle with freehand sharpening, and I've watched several videos online of people trying to sharpen these heads, and a few gave up and put it in a guide or a jig or a electrical powered device, or they try to come up with solutions to sharpen a head that doesn't need a solution. You should be able to sharpen this without any guide or fixture. But demand is what it is, and the emails and calls keep coming in and people actually wanting to send me the heads if I'll just sharpen them. And I always refuse that because as a bow hunter, you own this task. You own the edges that you hunt with. So they, like all heads, have all sorts of claims to fame, and I think everything that they've got on here is certainly factual. I think they're one of the few that doesn't say razor sharp out of the package, because the people I've been talking to in the videos I watched, one said in his video, these are not sharp out of the package. They are not hunt ready. You will have to sharpen them, and that's fine. Again, if you've watched my videos, I always say out of the box sharpness, excuse me, out of the box sharpness is a snapshot in time. This is a premium head. These are expensive heads. You're going to practice with them. You're going to dull them. You have to sharpen them. You're going to shoot an animal with it. You're going to have to sharpen it. So out of the box doesn't mean a lot to me because my business is sharpening broadheads. You as a bow hunter, your job is to dull broadheads on animals, and I'm supposed to help you return them to a razor's edge. So what I'm going to do, I don't typically do this, I take usually one sample head and I look at them in the sharpness meter to see what the out-of-the-box sharpness is. So you've all seen this device in my videos. Let's employ it, and I'm gonna end up speeding this up because I've got many edges that I'm gonna test, and we're gonna look at out of the box sharpness first of the single bevel portion only. And you know, I prefer heads that are sub 200. All right, so that was the single bevel side. Now we're going to do the tip that is double bevel. Just this portion here that is double bevel out at the tip. All right, so that was head number one. And for the rest of this, I won't talk because I'm going to be speeding it up. And I'll sound like a chipmunk anyway. All right, back to regular speed. So it looks like the single bevel portions didn't test out as well as the double bevel tip did, but all of them were, you know, between 400 and 600. And I'm going to inset a picture here of a sharpness scale that came with this meter. So as you can see, these edges are not as sharp as they could be. If I put this through the vitals of an animal, would it kill it? Absolutely. Every one of these would certainly kill an animal. Shot placement, right? That is the key to everything. But bow hunters want razor sharp, scary sharp. And this is a stout head. This is an awesome reusable head. This thing's a tank. This front end is just about bulletproof. So let's look at the edge of one under the microscope rather than all three. And then we're going to come back and talk about sharpening next. All right, here's one of the Omega blades. I'm looking at the single bevel portion of it. Just to the right of center, that white spot is a remnant of a burr left behind. There's a little inclusion in the blade. All right, now here, the entire screen is filled with burr. That folded over line is what was killing for the score. So when the burr was broken off on the flat side, it was chased back to the bevel side. So that burr destroyed the sharpness test results. Now you can see that burr is gone. Here it's showing up again. Here we've got a burr-free area. So as I preach in every video, getting the burr is key to sharpness. Getting rid of the burr is an absolute if you want that head to be sharp. You absolutely must get rid of the burr or the head will seem dull, feel dull, and be dull in the sharpness meter and through the animal. So burr removal is key. So let's talk about sharpening next. As you saw in the video under the microscope, what I preach is true. The burr is everything. Any burr left behind makes the head seem dull. If you excel at freehand sharpening, and they've put a feature on there to make it a little bit easier for you, you could lay it flat and erase that burr And they've got a facet on the back side too where you can, and even in their own sharpening video, talk about creating a micro bevel on the back side to break off the burr. And if you did that on a fine enough grit or with buffing compound, I contend you could get that burr gone and you would make the head very sharp. If you excel at freehand sharpening, there is no need for you to watch this video any further. This video is for the people who have reached out for me who don't excel at freehand sharpening and have tried every method and bought some devices, and they're reaching out to me for help. That's the only reason I'm making this video. So in order to sharpen this head with any of our Stay Sharp guides, and we make 10 different guides, I looked at them all, and the step on the back excludes me from any of our rolling guides, such as our fixed blade guide or our 35-degree guide, because I would need a flat surface to do burr breaking. So the best and only option I can see for somebody who would like a guide to sharpen the Omega is our C kit. The C kit has 6 different roller positions on both sides, so it'll do right bevel, it'll do left bevel. And in this case, I have to employ 2 different roller positions, one for sharpening the main bevel, so I'm going 1, 2, 3 down to sharpen the main bevel. And it's going to be a little bit steeper than the factory bevel, but if you've watched my videos, I don't like single bevels below 30 degrees anyway. And I'm only going to be sharpening the cutting edge. I won't be grinding way back here. I won't be using their lay flat technology. I guess that's the point I'm making. Since I'm using a guide, I don't have to match their factory bevel. So I'm going to be a little bit steeper than factory on the bevel side. For burr breaking, you also know I don't like to create a bevel on the back side. I don't have a choice because of this feature. So I'm going to set it in the absolute lowest position, and that is going to be pretty close to their factory facet that you would lay it on for burr breaking. And I'm going to lightly break off the burr with each grit. So I'll sharpen in roller position 3. I'll do burr breaking in roller position 6. So in order to see that I've got my head in here as well as possible, I'm going to color up the edge. I don't need to color up all of it since we're going to be attacking all of it. And there's nothing to color up on this side. With the C kit, you would get the square dowel. In this case, you would want the square dowel. It's a straight edge. You would get a round dowel, a smooth cut round file, and then 5 different grits of our silicone carbide paper: 240, 400, 800, 1200, and 2000. What I do is I just pre-cut from the short length of the sheet strips that are about 3/4 of an inch wide. I cut them and I pre-bend them around the square dowel into a U-shaped channel, and then I lay that dowel in the U-shaped channel and secure it with a piece of tape. So I'm creating, in this case, a 240 grit sharpening stick. Now I'll bend that tape over. Then I will come on this side, fold that silicone carbide paper over, and trap it on the dowel so it can't slide or move. This gives me a nice long 240 grit handle to do my first sharpening with. So now I've got this long stick. And I've got the next one for 400, and I've got another one pre-bent for 800, 12, 2500. I'm going to use the 3rd position down, and I'm going to sharpen. I'm going to use just a pulling stroke with such a coarse grit. And as you can see, I am not at the factory bevel. I'm a little bit steeper, and that's fine. I don't need to sharpen. I don't do any cutting out here. This bevel is for their lay flat technology. Since I'm not using that, I won't be using or sharpening that whole bevel. I should mention that this is the orientation of the blade in the guide. You want this edge parallel to the roller, and you want the head centered in the guide. The guide has already got a bias cut because we can't remove the ferrule. Now, in the video of the microscope, we saw that the burr was on this bevel side. So what I'm doing right now will certainly get rid of that burr on the bevel side. But what it's going to do is it's going to chase that burr to the back side, the flat side, at least the flat side where it's single bevel. Let me grab a piece of paper here and we'll do some burr testing. I'll just cut a strip of paper, not more than 1/4 of an inch wide. We'll put a nice fresh cut on it, and we will test to see if we've chased any burr to the back side. No, well, we have some. We haven't done the whole blade though, so let me go a little bit further. It won't take much if we've already got some burr in the middle of the blade. And again, they always use good steel. This is good hard steel. I can tell right away. I've been sharpening blades since I was 12 years old, and I'm in my 60s now, and I've had Stay Sharp Broadhead sharpening going for a decade, and I've sharpened a lot of heads. So I know my steel just by the sound and feel of it as I'm sharpening it. This is good steel. Let's look at that edge now. So I'm catching, you hear it clicking. The paper is catching on the burr. All right, so I've created a burr. I'm going to do a little bit more because I thought it was kind of a weak burr. All right, now you can see how much of the cutting edge I'm sharpening. It's going to come out slightly steeper than factory, but I have now created a burr along the entire length on the single bevel side and on the double bevel side. I was in roller position 3. To break that burr off, I'm way down here in roller position 6, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. It takes very little time to break that burr off, and I'm not trying to create a double bevel head. Yes, I'm double bevel out here at the tip, but I don't want to create a double bevel on the single bevel portion. So you can see where I've upset their black oxide coating on here. But what that did, and I can feel it's gone, I got rid of that 240 grit burr. So right now I've done 240. Rather than have you suffer through watching me do all 5 grits, I will go through 4, 8, 12, 2500, and then I'm going to come back at 2500, show you some final steps, and then we're going to talk about buffing this edge. So stay tuned. So now I'm using 1200 grit. I've gone through every other grit, and we're doing it on both sides. So you know the importance of the burr. You need to create the burr, but you definitely have to break the burr off. And that's what we're doing here. Now we are going to create a very small micro bevel, but we don't have a choice. They suggest or instruct that in their video. So we will keep with that. And that double bevel tip means that I don't have a choice. So I'm creating a burr on the bevel side at 2500. breaking that burr off on the opposite side at 2500, but at a much sloped angle, lower angle I should say. I'll go back here because I pushed the burr to this side. Give it a few strokes. I'm doing everything I can to get rid of that burr. I want it to snap off. I don't want it to be on either side. If it's present at all, it's going to show up under the microscope. I'll see it. And it will show up in the score. Okay, the last step is the buffing step. So I'm going to get rid of the silicone carbide paper. And I'm going to get rid of the tape that was on there. And now I'm going to lay a fresh piece of tape. No silicone carbide paper at all. Just tape. And this protects the stick. And then our buffing compound, which is just a waxy crayon with a fine abrasive in it, finer than the 2500 grit that I was using. And now I'm going to buff the edge to create a mirror finish and to break off any of that 2500 burr that I didn't chase away. I'm going to polish it away. So this is like a leather strop. You don't need leather. Tape is fine, cardboard's fine, leather is fine, wood is fine, denim is fine. All of those materials are the vehicle for the buffing compound to stay on. Doesn't matter what they are. Here it's tape. I'm always using a pulling motion so I don't cut that tape. You would also use a pulling motion on leather so you didn't cut the leather. And we're going to polish this edge up. You can see it's getting blacker. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side because we've chased a buffing burr back here. And the nice thing about buffing is it really doesn't remove any material as much as it smooths it out. It polishes those cracks and crevices that the other grits created, and they look like cracks and crevices under a microscope. And so this is a step that you don't have to worry about overdoing because you can't overdo it. You're not really removing material in as much as you're smoothing it out. So rather than have you watch me do this, because I'm going to do this for a while, you can do this as much as you like. I am going to come back and look at it under the microscope next. Here's the Omega blade after buffing. All 5 grits of silicone carbide paper and buffing. There is no visible burr. It is completely gone. A nice, straight, crisp edge. So this should test very well. If you saw what I saw under the microscope, that looked pretty good, front and back. So we do have some double bevel here, and we've got now a micro bevel on the back side, but there you can see the reflection of my red camera in the edge. And again, we just did this last 10 thousandths. We did not do the whole lay flat bevel. So let's see what kind of a score we get in the single bevel area. $83. Now I'm going to reset this and we're going to do the double bevel tip next. Now I've reset the filament, so we're going to do the test on just the tip portion to see how we did. 107. Both of those are sub 200, which I've set as a personal sharpness, hunt readiness, I guess. Again, I did not want to make this video. This video was driven by customers saying, hey, I really suck at freehand sharpening, even with the lay flat. Do you have a suggestion on how I can get it sharp with one of your guides? And as I said, I've watched enough videos from people sharpening this head online that have employed other methods other than lay flat to help them get it sharp. Ultimately, you own the edges that you're going to hunt with. If you are really good at getting it super sharp with the lay flat method, you don't need a single thing from me or anybody else. Just keep rocking the way you're doing it and you're doing just fine. But if you are like the many who have reached out to me who say, I struggle, I still can't get what I want for an edge, do you have a solution? This is an option. It is the Stay Sharp C kit. So there you go. That's the Omega sharpened with the C kit. Thanks for watching.